Hi, I'm Sergey Gusев. Today I'll show you how to paint a landscape using a palette knife and acrylic paints. If you want to paint alongside with me, please check out the list of my art supplies I have attached and the source picture. And if you're ready, let's begin. So I'm going to use a canvas stretched on stretch bars as a surface, and in the very beginning I want to stain my canvas. I usually do it, and I explained and showed how to do it in my previous tutorials, so I'm going to do it again this time around. I'm using acrylics, a lot of titanium white, then I add a bit of black and a bit of blue and purple, because I want to make this grayish, bluish, neutral but cool color. You can actually play around and choose your own color, especially if you're going to paint another landscape, not this one, but another one. You can choose some different colors that will match the colors from the picture you are using. Let's start sketching out. And while sketching out, I want to also tell you that if you stain your canvas, as I did, so using quite a lot of acrylics, a very thick layer, and a palette knife, I would highly suggest you to let it dry for a few hours. So before you start sketching out, make sure it's completely touch dry. If you don't want to use so much of acrylics, and if you want just to darken your surface without smoothing it out, without evening it out, you can use water. So you can use 1, 2, 3 colors together, mixed with water, yeah, and you'll have a very thin layer that you can also cover your canvas with, and then it's going to dry really quickly because it's not a lot of acrylics, it's a lot of water. And maybe 15-20 minutes is enough, and then when it's dry you can start sketching out as well. I try to separate light from the shadow using tonal values, so I'm darkening in the shadows, I'm darkening in the reflection on the water, and so on. So just look at the source picture and try to see lighter spots, darker spots, and just separate one area from another area using darker tone. So basically we use less water and more paint to darken in the shadows, because I'm using only one color. There are really lots of different ways to do this sort of underdrawing, underpainting. I don't want to confuse you, so let's go simple. One color, and you can regulate the darkness of the color just by the amount of water you use. Okay, let's say we're done with the sketch and we need to start working on the colors. We use a palette knife. It's not a large palette knife, it's like middle-sized palette knife. It's pretty flexible. Palette knives can be good, can be bad, so make sure the one you use is a very nice flexible palette knife, middle size. I even don't remember the brand. I bought it in a local art store. It's not something expensive. Anyway, then we start working on the big spots of light and shadow. So no details, spots of light and shadow. Carefully, no stress. So we need to mix, something really warm for the light, because we have sunset lighting. So if you look at the mountain on the source picture, you can see that the shadows are pretty cool. We blocked in the big spot of the light. Let's block in the big shadow on the mountain. Use some white, use blue, and you can use a bit of purple. We don't need anything really intense blue. If you look at the source picture, that color for the shadow is not intense at all. But it's cool, it's cooler than the light. What it means? You can see on my palette right now that the lights are warmer because they contain yellow and red, and the shadows are cooler because they contain blue, purple and white. So the temperature is different, and especially when you paint something with sunset lighting, it's really important to show this difference in temperature. So we mix that color and we put it out on the canvas next to the lights. We can also compare this way if we do any mistake. So when we look at our painting without any detail, we can see clearly only two big large spots, light and shadow. And then we can control the amount of blues we use, the amount of yellows we use, and so on. Again, judge not only tonal values, but also colors, meaning temperature. You see that I'm mixing in more red and more blue, so I want to do the color a bit darker and less intense blue, because we're going to use this color in the shadow, and so we should not use such a simple color like white and blue. It's going to be too bright for the shadow. And let's try it out on the canvas. Let's do some knife strokes at the low part of the mountain where we are going to paint the snow. So the snow, if you look at the source picture, is not just white and blue. It's, I would say, a little bit more grayish, at the same time a little bit more purplish. That's why I mixed in a bit of red, and we can actually control the amount of white, making some parts lighter, some parts darker. It's absolutely fine. Again, just look at what I'm doing on the canvas. The color is very, very cool, but at the same time it's more complex than just white and blue. Let's continue working on the lights, and I'm using quite a lot of white at this moment. I mixed in a tiny bit of warm yellow. If it's looking too dark, we need more white. This color we are going to use for the lights on the snow. It's pretty warm and pretty light. We can't use only white, like right from the tube, just because the snow has its temperature, sunset lighting, warm light, so use some warm colors in the snow. I would suggest just white plus a bit of yellow. That's going to create a really nice, amazing color for the snow. And then quickly blocking. You see that I'm not really even thinking about what I'm doing, just covering up like a large area of the light down there. And then I look around, and of course we need to work on the snow all over this painting. I'm blocking in some of the reflections, some of the reflections from the snow. Don't do any sharp edges. Try to soften the edges. I would suggest you to remember about mixing colors not only on the palette but also on the canvas. It's difficult to mix a perfect color on the palette because we have one color situation on the palette, and on the canvas we have another color situation. So the color depends on the colors around. I use some blue, not so much of white of course, some red, and applying the dark deep color and tone to the clouds. If it's too gray and too dark, maybe add a bit of blue. So again, play around. I would not say that we have so many rules to follow. So maybe play around and make just an interesting color, and interesting how you feel it. You see that it was too dark to me, and I made it a bit lighter, a bit cooler, and then I also play around with the lights of the sky on the clouds. So I'm trying to use warmer colors over there and different tones, different edges. I didn't mention, but when you paint with a palette knife, and obviously you use no water and do the color, the thickness of the layer thicker, pretty thick, you get a chance, you get time to adjust, because thin layers dry really quickly and thick layers don't dry really quickly. So most of the time we have maybe 30 minutes, maybe 1 hour to adjust the color, remove the color, mix something in that color if we don't like what we got. So that's another benefit of using a palette knife, because when you use water, brushes and really thin layers, you basically have to almost always paint over a dry layer. So when the layer is dry, there is no chance to adjust it. Yeah, we have to basically redo that color. And in this situation, when you do the thickness of the layer bigger, when you use more paint, the paint stay wet for a while, and you can do some corrections here and there. So basically, in this sense, acrylics get a bit closer to oils, yeah, because oils don't dry so quickly, and we can adjust them maybe even during a few days. Sometimes they still wet. Acrylics dry a lot quicker, but if the layer is thick, we anyway have a chance to adjust it. So it's a really nice opportunity that I constantly use, to be honest. And meanwhile, I blocked in the snow down there, because we of course also need to work on the lower part of the painting. So again, I use the same combination of colors, white, blue, a bit of red, and then I try to draw the houses. Okay, we also have a few houses on the other side of the water, so use the same idea. We block in like big abstract spot. It's cool, it's red, it's purple, it's dark, and we try at the same time to control the form of that abstract spot. So it's not just completely shapeless. Of course, we're painting the houses, so more or less it has to look like square and have some corners, and then we just correct it. We can always put, you know, that color we use for the snow to correct the shape of the houses. But anyway, don't think it's a really difficult thing to do. It's pretty easy. I really hope that you like this tutorial, and I really hope, and I always say that I would be happy if you decided to follow this tutorial and use the same source picture, the list of my art supplies, to do your own painting. I'm sure it's going to be a nice, really great artwork. So thank you for watching. It was a pleasure for me. I hope you learned something from this tutorial, and I wish you good luck with your own artworks, and of course see you in my next episode.